You're live.
Welcome to the Ticker Studio. We have a special guest, Kate, Max, and Vaughn here.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Mr. Vaughn.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Ticker Nation, wherever we are.
Ticker Nation of 9 people.
Yep.
I love my Ticker Nation. It's good to see everybody.
All right.
So we have Vaughn here in the Ticker Studio.
Is he our first repeat guest?
Ooh, he is.
Might be.
What you know.
Might be our first repeat guest.
All right.
Well, you are not just a first-time repeat tester. So what brought you in to Ann Arbor and the studio today was to have a retest of a Pinoy metabolic analysis, yes?
Correct.
Yep. And why did we do that?
Well, I was cruising. Things are good, feeling good. Let's retest here and let's see if we can push it. And I laid a giant poop on my on that retest. You know, if you're ever out there, Ticker Nation, you're taking a Pinoy and they start asking you questions when you're in the middle of your test, like,
Is everything okay?
yeah, have you started any new hobbies, like drug abuse or anything like that? Like, they start asking you 1,000 questions when you're just at like 35 RPM. That's a bad move. So yeah, we had I don't know if you call it a bad test, but just didn't have a good performance, right? And that's, to me, that's the key here, though. It's feedback, right?
Yeah.
So something was awry, even though I was trying to follow the protocol. I've been training well. I've been feeling good. But, you know, that's the whole point of the Pinoy always tells the truth.
Because you started out, had a mildly fine test. Right?
Mildly fine.
But we made some training suggestions and we talked.
Yep.
And we've gone over this before.
Yep.
And then you went home, trained, had a great second test.
Yep.
Right? And then a fair bit of time has gone by since that. You know, we've had the open and all these other things. And then we just decided to check in again, right? And so, and you've been having great training, yes?
Yeah, great.
Okay. Like, I've been watching all of your results and see your comments. And I thought we were going to do this retest of this Pinoy and you were just going to knock it out of the park and you were going to add some more beats to your training zone. You know, because you were reporting feeling good, all this stuff. And then when I put that thing on and you started, that's when the questions started occurring, right? So
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing is, I remember in one of your repeat tests back here, we had to restart a test a couple times.
It's true.
And we played with different protocols for a little while on, you know, charging up your system, not, you know, uncharging your system. You know, some people put that mask on and they're like, whoa, let's go. But we got good results. So we did restart your test again when we came and retested you last time and got the exact same results. Results being that your zones had dropped quite a bit and you weren't utilizing fuel quite as well, if at all.
he pretty much went full sugar on the retest just the other day. It was like, I mean, his RER was what we would consider high or stressed very, very early on in the test. And I can pull it up on the screen here and show, but
Which was not something that you had even expected.
No. In fact, Max, on the way in, he's like, let's see this. I want to see if we can push you a little bit today. I'm like, all right, bro. And we're at 35 RPM, and he's like, oh.
We pushed you.
Well, how
Good
about
job.
that, right? So something was up. And so it's so good to get that feedback.
So, are you bringing it up on the screen?
I have it up on the screen, but I want to hear a little bit more about, you know, why we saw maybe a negative decline.
Right. So we see this negative decline and we look at you and we're like, so what's going on?
Yeah.
And
because when we see that stuff, it creates conversation for us as coaches to be able to be like, hey, this is showing a lot of stress. What's going on? Why so? What's going on in your life? And
we can also creepily whisper, the body doesn't lie.
yeah. And you admittedly, right? You had something. Because I go is I say, well, what are you eating? What did you have for lunch? What did you have for breakfast?
I feel like I'm being outed here all the time.
You are.
Like doing something
You are.
terrible. Like what happens in the dark will be revealed in the light. No, like it was end of the open, and an open training is a little bit different. And then here comes spring break, and I have several good qualities about me according to some people, but one of them, I get a little vain here, and
Oh, who doesn't? We all do.
I had spring break time, and I'm gonna be on the beach, shirt off every day. Boy, let's remove a little fluff and get it going. So I really went back and kind of cut out a lot of fat on my diet, and probably took my calories down to just over 2,000 or 2,100, where I've survived before. And dude, I started getting, ripped out again, and all was good and is good, right? So I thought that was the way to do it, though. And I thought, okay, I can just keep training like this, and I'm going to eat 20 to 40 grams of fat maybe all day long. And I started making up those calories with some more carbs. And basically what this test revealed is you put in some crappy fuel and you're going to get some crappy output.
Yeah.
Well, there's an interesting statement on that, because I bet the carbs that you were eating were not necessarily crappy carbs.
Not all the time. I always sneak a little Cinnamon Toast Crunch in there. But yeah, no, for the most part, it wasn't bad. But it was just out of balance, right? And it's out of balance with now what I'm understanding, right? What this program is about, as far as we're trying to teach our body to pull fat and burn fat, and that means you don't have all this residual crap in your system, and you're not inflamed. And right, this is my understanding so far. And what I did was kind of undid a lot of the great work I had been doing by teaching my body to go back to burning carbs because the fat wasn't available.
And I think that's something that when we talk about this and we're like, your body's going to burn fat for fuel. And then you think, well, cool, because I've got fat on my abs that I want it to burn. I mean, it comes down to being like, you can't spot treat, which is what you learned in that if you're not eating enough fat for your body to have enough fuel in general. So dropping down to 2,000 calories a day, you didn't have enough fuel to use at all. So
yeah, it wasn't necessarily just the loss or the reduction in fat. It was a stressful situation, because being an active guy and already being lean and having a good metabolism, it just wasn't enough fuel for you.
Sure.
So your body was kind of going into like I said to him, like, you can continue on this cut, or you can continue eating 2,000 calories, but you've got to slow way down to do that. Right. And I said, do you want to slow down or do you want to eat? And he said, well, I want to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the interesting thing, it's going to be hard to do. We should have done this before.
Almost.
When we were chatting about you eating 2,000 calories a day, and we were chatting about how you felt. Your training felt fine. You were easily able to keep in your zones. You weren't going red. And I think a lot of people look at it, if I'm under fueled and I'm struggling to get through my workouts, it would be red, right? I would be having a hard time making it through. So we pulled up some of your Self-Loops accounts. And do you remember kind of the trends that we saw? So normally you would see a chart that would go, flat, up and down, work to rest ratios. And then we noticed that in yours, although you were staying really well in your zones, you could see where the whole chart in every workout kind of shifted this way. So as your body stressed out, although you had trained yourself to work really well within your training zones, and like, oh yeah, it's hard work. Of course I'm not recovering quite as well. But when you can see all of that trend upwards, we figured out that actually that was a sign that you were training too hard. And that was a good sign.
He wasn't recovering in between interval sets and things like that, right?
Right. Now, we gave you new training zones.
Yeah, but the biggest thing we did
Actually, we didn't tell him to do anything different after that second test.
We didn't give you a new heart rate to work at?
I said, I just want to see, I gave him kind of the choice as an athlete and as a person. Was like, well, you're either going to have to slow down in your daily training to be able to not use all this fuel, right?
Right.
Because it wasn't available. So he chose to increase your intake to what?
About 2,600, and we might even bump it more than that. But the biggest change was 2,600, and I went from 40-ish% carbs. 40% carbs, and sometimes a little higher when I cut my fat down. Now I'm 45% fat, and that's a huge difference. And
cool.
My carbs are way down. And the funny thing happened is, so now I'm eating a ton of fat, for me at least. And then I got on the scale and my weight went down 2 pounds. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Well, it'll catch up, weight sometimes a little leg, and went down another pound. And my body fat percentage on my little scale went down. And so here I am, and this is the mind-blowing part for me, was like, here I am consuming more and more fat, and I'm losing more and more fat. It just doesn't make sense. And so that's been a real mind-blowing thing. I always associated those two things, even though I get it. There's adipose tissue and there's fat fuel. They're different things, but still, you don't think about trying to get leaned out, ripped out, and eating a lot of fat.
And how did your training change?
It didn't. I feel really, really good. Like, you know what I mean? I guess as far as, is that what you mean? Like everything
No,
felt
I mean,
good.
you started, so I can hear argument on the other side. Yeah, you're eating a whole bunch more, so then you started working harder. That's how that happened. But what did you do for your training? We put you through the assessment period, yes?
Yeah, I'm going through the assessment period now.
At your training zones from your really good test, yes?
Yeah, so still at the 145-ish area.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that was only, was that 2 weeks ago? Not quite. Like,
Oh yeah, it's only been about 2.5 weeks that I've been eating different.
all right. So let's just pull this up here. I've got your test from a couple weeks ago on the left, and then today's on the right. So there's 2 week period here. And if we just look at this graph here on the left, you can just see here, you are pretty much done pulling fat at 110 beats. And we've been having you train, right, at around 150.
Yep.
Right? So you can see there, you've been cutting your calories, training at 150, and you are done burning fat there. You've used it up. It's too high intensity. We said, don't change any training. Just go home and consume more food. I wasn't even, expecting to have this kind of change that quick, Vaughn, but to see that you can improve your ability to pull fat just through food is pretty cool, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So now, based on this one, we're probably going to suggest backing off just a little bit to see if we can do a little bit of repair to get you back to where you were. Because you can still see here, even at these lower heart rates at 100 to 110, 115, you're starting to pull fat or sugar already. And with some focused training with this kind of food intake, we can change that even more and push this crossover or this intensity of 141 that you're feeling now back over towards the 160. It's going to take a little bit more time of, slow work and good diet, right?
So if I'm hearing the story, here's the story, right? We had a guy who was burning lots of sugar going way too fast.
Yep.
Slowed him down. His body starts to burn fat, becomes much more efficient, right? Things are going pretty good. Mm-hmm. Then I almost untrained my body from burning fat. Got it back because of a calorie restriction, right? Back to needing or pulling more carbs.
Yeah, I would
and
say
so
I would
now
say
I'm kind of in between. Now I'm almost repairing. I kind of unlearned a little bit.
A little bit. Keep in mind, through all of this, though, your performance still is better than it was when you started.
Oh, for sure.
Right? You're
for sure.
still doing way more work. Your VO2 is increased. Your mitochondria is healthier now. It's just to continue on this path of being your healthiest, best performing self. Like I said to you, you want to restrict your calories? Go ahead. You're going to have to slow down. It's too stressful. And if I'm using stress as far as a determinant of feeling good, being healthy, all of that, again, this is just a guide for us to be able to coach you, to be able to get you the results you want. Because ultimately, your goal is
lifelong health, feeling good for a really long time, living well for a really long time.
Just being a badass 45-year-old, awesome dad, husband, teacher, feeling good till you're 80.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, maybe 90, 100. I don't know what you're going to do.
120, 130 easy.
Right? I mean, with my kind of money, I can see that science, right? Was that Talladega Nights?
For sure.
Right?
Totally.
So, I mean, again, I get the spring break. I get that.
There's a lot more that plays into. I kind of want to touch very briefly on, feeling fluffy and where you were at that point, right? Like, the last thing that I want to get into is like, oh, here I was doing all this stuff and I put on some fat, so therefore I need to cut. I mean, this is probably, like, honestly, where most obvious minds go to is, yeah, I haven't been hitting it so hard, haven't been doing that intensity, except you had been in the open. I'm just going to cut my calories and keep on and have this work. Except it didn't. And I think we had the ability to check in with the Pinoy system. We're able to check in before you hit a wall or hurt yourself or started being too sore to train or lost motivation.
Can I pick up on that, Kate, with you here? So if we look at this graph and, you talk about intensity, well, according to this graph, 150 beats while he's cutting weight or trying to not eat enough food is really, really intense. That's an RER of 1.0. That's him hyperventilating.
So
although he's capable of doing a lot of work in that state because of his training history, that is still too intense, which is why the fluff started to occur.
Yeah.
Got it? Or how he felt innately.
Right.
You know what I mean? This I'm putting words, but it's
what I also want to touch on then is like, okay, so then you ate more food. Scale started to go down, started to really feel. Did your training feel any different? Was it fun again, or were you just focused? Or I know for me, like if I have a definite focus and I'm like, I'm on this, but
yeah, no, the training has always felt good. Like, since I've been on this program, it's felt good, and I still felt good. I think this just kind of pulled back the layer and let me know that, yeah, okay, you're feeling good, but you're not on the inside. You're not burning or moving like what we're trying to teach the body to do it.
This brings up a really important fact that Kate and I are always talking about. There is more to Ticker. There is more to this methodology than just slowing down, right? If it was just slowing down, go ahead, eat your 1,800 calories a day and, do your thing. But that's not going to get you the results long term that you're hoping for.
And if it was just diet as well.
Totally.
Like it's so ingrained. Which brings me now to today's test. 2 weeks later, look how much different, let me bring it up. Look how much different the fat utilization is in terms of just raw time. You pulled fat. That to me, that being that flexible then to just change one little thing, little things.
All the way into 700 seconds.
And then all of a sudden your metabolism's like, oh, sweet, we're not going to starve. We can give you some of that held on fat as a fuel source to keep going. We're going to need something for energy.
Good point, Kate.
To continue on.
Yeah, it actually will that's why he's losing that fat, because now his body isn't trying to hold on to it.
And we can probably see that in, let's relate back to oxygen from fat. So let's go to the top. When we say we're burning fat as a fuel source, that means that our body is functioning at a point that we're using oxygen efficiently and that we're pulling in enough to sustain that effort.
Yeah. That's great. Good job, Kate, because you can see it people could see me pointing.
I do that on calls all the time.
Yeah.
Like right here. Oh, shoot.
You can see like this here, he's bringing in enough oxygen, right? But here he's done. He's like, the CO2.
The red is CO2. So you're hyperventilating even if you don't feel like you need a paper bag and bending over.
Correct.
I mean, that's just your body switching over and off-gassing, the hot, fast burn of sugar versus, efficiently bringing in oxygen to use in a sustainable way.
So you can see, like, although he did go a little longer today than just the other day, but from second, 460 on, this was a really stressful situation for you the other day. You might not have necessarily felt it that much, but on a cellular level, this was a disaster for
look at the
screaming at you.
The gap between the carbon dioxide and the oxygen on the test on the left. Mm-hmm. I mean, right there, your body is asking for fuel to turn into energy.
Yep.
It's not asking for a lot more oxygen. That's already starting to drop before that test is done. Where on that test on the right, you can see the demand for oxygen is winning out and rising for a lot longer period of time.
And he's able to actually pull more in.
Which would be a calm situation. If you think about it just in life, like if you're breathing easy, then you're moving at an efficient way. If you're fighting to even bring in oxygen, then your body is trying to tell you, like, we don't want any more energy. We want you to stop moving. So that's an interesting thing to look at there that, yeah, we've related this to fat and fuel and everything else, but it really means how easy the effort was just on you.
So the other day, you could only pull in 45 milliliters per minute a kilogram of O2, and then today, 50.
It's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
That's breathing that much easier over the
You're just
same
able to
amount of time.
pull and utilize the fuel better, period. It's cool to see.
It's cool to see. So I want to relate all of this talk. So kind of, we touched on this a little bit of like why you do this, longevity, health, moving forth with your life in a way that
sets a good example. provides,
Walking right into there. What do you do for a living?
I am, I'm a husband and I'm a dad first and foremost. But yeah, I'm a teacher. I work with young people and they blow my mind every day. So yeah, that's what I do.
What do you teach?
I teach 8th grade environmental science, and it is a riot. It is a room full of puppy dogs, and it is a good time. If you can enjoy those puppy dogs every day, it's a great career. It's fun.
And you coach, yes?
At my gym, yeah, I coach, yep, and work with athletes there and just try to pass on all this awesome stuff that people have invested in me.
You take on a big part of the kids program in the summer too, yes?
Yeah, I run the kids program, right? I have a very selfish thing for my own kids,
That's how it starts.
Yeah, and just building great physical literacy and watching kids grow, it's fantastic.
Cool.
So if we talk about, you're raising young people, not just your own, but in your classroom. And then you're helping continually raise adults in terms of a health and wellness and fitness lifestyle. It doesn't sound like I'm trying to relate this to where you can't just buy you, right? You can't buy what you're not trying to sell them in this, hey, if you buy these things, the earth will be better and the environment will stay great. Hey, if you give me money, then I'll coach you the best. Hey, what I'm saying? Like, I'm going through in this, like, fitness and lifestyle and health is not a commodity you can buy. And you're someone that puts a lot of effort and time and passion into what you do. So I kind of want to start a conversation about that, like how you relate that in your life.
With my own kids, and this is just a parenting thing, you have to be so careful because you are establishing what's normal. Mm-hmm. Like, again, where do you keep your syrup? Where is it? Is it in the fridge or the pantry? Because I grew up with the syrup in the pantry. My wife grew up with the syrup in the refrigerator. Thus, the syrup war of 2003 in my household. And we almost had a marriage counselor, but now we have 2 bottles of syrup. We each have our own, but we each thought that was normal because that's what was established for us growing up.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that there's such power in that when you're dealing with young people. This was our Saturday is that I went into my gym and ran an open gym and worked out with my bros and everything else. Then I came home and my wife went out for a 5-mile run. And this is just normal for us. We have sports this afternoon for our kids. Like, we're establishing that you make that a priority in your life. And you're doing that with everything. Is it normal to have pizza, 3 nights a week at home? Is it normal to eat out all the time? Is it normal, whatever you want to say? Is it normal to stay up till 2 a.m.? You're setting all these examples. So in our house, I think that is a big thing that it's normal that you are active and you move because it's just a way to fulfillment and a happiness. And there's a big component there, and it will unlock doors for goals you might have later on that you don't even know about yet. And so that's a big piece that I think runs through. So I guess when you talk about working outside of my own household, I think that's something though you're modeling for other people.
Right.
Being a healthy and happy person, the fitness is a big piece of that.
Now, when you were in your competition days,
Whoa. Still am.
Okay, right?
Good.
You're in.
Can we call that like BT, before ticker?
Right.
We can call that full Carlos. I was on let's just get in a fist fight every day because that's the way that you have to do it. So yeah, but yes, those days.
Right. So I think about you now that. Hey, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to cut my calories, see what that does. Oh, it didn't work. I'm going to move here. And you're very vocal and a great leader, and you have a very public, you don't go and sit in a cubicle all day, right? So you're in front of a lot of people all day, exuding your health and wellness.
Leading by example. As you just eloquently put, Vaughn, which was, I'm going to go home and, man, I guess.
Are you going to stop at the store and get some more syrup?
I got to go home and straighten some shit out, man. Man.
What was different, 5 years ago in terms of how you felt sustainably teaching your family and your students about what you were doing?
And even maybe to pick up on that question, Kate, what have you learned through this process?
Right.
Oh, I thought you had to put yourself through the meat grinder, and that by putting yourself through the meat grinder, then you didn't have as much to give to others. And
Right.
so I was like, I would sleep during my 25-minute lunch. I would get home from school, and I don't have many regrets, but this kills me. My kids would be asking me, begging me to do stuff with them, and I would
Yeah.
kind of limp through it and do it with, I'm exhausted. I'm dead. I can't move my arms. Like,
Max has a story very similar to that.
Totally.
Wanting to
Yeah,
go.
we've shared that plenty of times, right? Just going for a walk with my wife, my pregnant wife, and I was like, "Oh, baby, I gotta sit down.
yeah,
I'm way too fit. I'm way too fit to be out here doing this."
totally.
And it's
Now-
just it's been a pretty cool thing, right, Vaughn, to be able to, have you gained or lost or maintained your fitness from full Carlos days?
That's what's remarkable, and that was the big thing we talked about last time. Is when I went into that last comp and I didn't know, and so I ran in there, and whatever you want to call it, it was there, and I felt great, and I moved well, and so it's still there, and so that's what's really, really cool is that you can have both, and I have energy to give other people, and I'm training so much smarter, and so therefore I'm not destroyed, and therefore I can be there for my kids and be my family. So I think when you talk about setting an example of everything, the other example was Dad comes home from work and crashes on the ground and trying to disturb him because he's going to be crabby about like little things, right? And how is that? And he's going to be snippy with our mom.
But he's got cool abs.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Totally.
And so now I feel like in the last, it's not quite a year now, but that's changed. That has changed. I have so much more energy for my kids and my family, and I'm just you know how it is. When you have energy, you're just calm when you're dealing with the chaos of life. You know
And
what
do
I
you
mean?
feel more invested in everything you're doing in terms of making your health a priority now and how it spreads out into your life?
Yeah, because it doesn't have to dominate. It doesn't have to dominate. Like before, it had to dominate because
What if you missed a workout?
Well, yeah. Well, there's that, and there's getting in a fist fight every single day, right? So I gotta, get to sleep and eat this or whatever, eat a carb up because tomorrow I'm getting another fist fight, and now I gotta recover like all afternoon, and because I gotta get another fist fight tomorrow. It just dominated, and you know how it is. I'm rep scheming in my head at home at night, like just. What the hell? Like, you know what I mean? We've all been there, right?
Totally.
I've been in during open season. I used to sit in church and rep scheme. I'm like, what am I? I'm just not focused at all on life, and because it just was so tough. So now I feel like no, it's not. It's cool. I go into the gym and I know I'm going to work at my 140 to 45 beats, and it's not going to hurt. It's going to feel very flowy, like I'm just moving and it feels good and whatever, so I don't need to stress about that because I can just go and train rather than compete every day.
Cool.
Yeah.
How did the Open go this year?
Good. That was a good time at 19.5. Yeah, great. Quick story. I was on vacation and dropped into a box on April 1st, and on the board is written 19.5 redo.
That is not a good
should have
April
done
Fool's
that.
joke.
I was like, bro, I almost walked right back out the door. Thank goodness it was an April Fool's joke, but
That is
it took
funny.
me a minute. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was a bad one.
Well, Vaughn, you got anything else you want to add to this? Kate, anything?
I would add to the Ticker Nation out there, like, don't be afraid to get a retest done. Let's make sure, and I'm not, I don't know how this works in your world or whatever, but this was eye-opening to me. I could have kept down this road for a long time and not realized that I needed to change my diet. I needed to slow down just a little bit. I was actually thinking I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I was unlearning, or just, I guess, slowing down the learning process of what I just taught my body to do. So,
We caught something, Vaughn, before you started having physical signs.
Yeah.
Because if you would have continued with your old zones by cutting food, you eventually either would have gotten hurt or it would have started affecting your sleep and your personality and all those things that are important to you. So
I think that, to put it in one sentence, you are on the path to what you thought was fitness, And we have realigned you to be more on the path of health and wellness.
Totally. And having a conversation about nutrition. And Jen Charlesworth, you tried to tell me this a while ago. I see you out there, and I didn't listen very well, did I? So it took a little bit of a crash and burn. I'm that kid that actually needs to stick the paperclip in through the socket sometimes to learn. And boy, but having this feedback and trying to figure it out and having a conversation with coaches, wow, what a powerful move this has been. And
it relates
really
back
my trajectory.
Well, it relates back to a podcast we've done previously of like, when do you win? Like, oh, I had this first test, I was broken. I had the second test, I'm good now. So now you go out and train, and then it kind of circles back that it's all a big picture of health and all of the outside influences in your life. Like, you purposefully changed your diet, but some people it's not diet. Some people it's lifestyle stress.
Right.
You know, kids are about to be home from
New
school
job.
all the time, and you're going to have different stressors and schedule changes. And that's why you don't ever really win, because it's not just something you can buy and be done at.
No.
It's not some competition. Like, this is life.
Yeah, and thanks for pointing out or saying that, Vaughn, as far as, get a retest, don't be afraid of a retest, all that stuff, because it's just data for us to be able to have some conversations around, that create healthy lifestyle habits, that create positive adaptation to whatever your goals are, right? Because, again, if your goal was to just be super, super fit, like in 6 weeks, maybe Ticker is going to take a little longer than that, right? So maybe we needed to make some adjustments and like, I got this competition, I want to go, I want to represent, I got my boys there, I need to whip somebody's butt. Okay, well,
We can use that data to figure out how to best train for that too.
we can. That's kind of what my point was, right? So I appreciate you saying that, because people do get afraid of this. They have a good test and like, I'm not testing again, no way.
It's going to be worse.
Right.
And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It just, again, it is just a snapshot. But that ability for us to be able to use that information to have some cool conversations regarding health and performance and lifestyle, it's very, very valuable. Yes?
Absolutely.
That was like the
Absolutely.
best worst case ever. We didn't change your heart rate zones, and we told you had to eat more.
Yeah.
And we gave you we took away your fluff.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
If that doesn't sell Ticker.
yeah, because let's go over that real quick. For when you first started with us, that was in August of last year.
Yep.
And your body fat percent was it 12?
Yep.
Okay, and then today you just retested.
Yep.
Was 10?
10.
10.
Your visceral fat went down. So, we've talked a little bit about fluff today. I just want to make sure we wrap this thing up by letting people
Fluff
know
is very relative.
that he did, get leaner and all of that stuff. So, through focusing on your health over the last couple weeks.
Well, that's
Even the
that's
year.
the best part of all of this. Again, when we started this, like, I thought I had to choose. I thought I had to choose competitive CrossFit or just kind of cruising, right, and feeling better, but not giving up on any competitive goals. That's come together. Now we're talking about, hey, aesthetics, and say what you will, all right, but aesthetics, okay, they're
Sure.
kind of important to people, and
Absolutely.
at least to vain MFs like me. But again, it doesn't have to be a one or the other.
No.
And
No.
so
Not if done appropriately.
correct. And so that's my new lesson
Cool.
of this whole thing.
Wow,
It's
that's
just
great.
like man, it's okay. It's okay, and I'm eating a lot
You
more
can
fat
have your
protein food,
avocado
too.
and eat it too.
Bacon is like my new best friend.
Yeah.
Well, it's always been my best friend. What am I saying?
Yeah, that's great. Vaughn, that's a great way to wrap that up for us. I appreciate it. Kate,
Cool.
great job. Vaughn, thank you for coming by again today and doing this with us. Appreciate it.
From Ann Arbor.
All right. Oh, yeah. If you want to learn more, go to tickertrain.com or come see us at CrossFitTreetown.com if you're here in the Ann Arbor area, or if you're, a little bit away and you want to come get a Pinoy, we are here and available. So that's it.
The end.
The end.